All right, good evening. My talk is about, about a year ago I did give a talk here, as Tim said, and it seemed to go down fairly well. Nobody left. Well, at the end, obviously, but not fully at the end. So Tim said, well, you know, maybe you'd like to come back and do another one. I said, well, I'd love to. I'd love to do a talk about atonality and the second Viennese school. I think I'm seeing faces which tell me that some of you don't even know who the first Viennese school is, but there are two. And Tim said, you know, that doesn't sound very good. And he said, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. So I actually, rather than research his talk properly, I constructed a little dance routine about the history of architecture, which I can't do because it takes several centuries. I basically stand still and erode for 700 years, which, you know, hasn't seemed to be believed. So maybe come down to Put a Bunny afterwards, I'll show you a bit of that routine. But it is a tricky topic, talking about music, because you need the musical examples, and it would take several weeks to play you all the music that I would like to play you. So I have got a Spotify playlist. Spotify is evil, but please support it in this case, because I've got all the music you need to hear ever on this playlist. So, tricky topic, so I just thought I'd just see what I'm dealing with here. So, how do I know if it's going to succeed or not? Well, we're in the age of measurable outcomes, unfortunately. Everything has to be measurable. So here is my measurable outcome, okay? It's a joke. And you won't find it funny, because you can't, because you don't know the references yet, okay? So I'm not expecting much for this joke. As the talk goes on, I will explain the references, and then you'll find it increasingly funny. So by the end of the evening, you'll be falling about this joke, okay? So unless there are people who already get it. If you find it funny the first time, can I ask you just to keep it to yourselves? I don't want anybody laughing the first time, so that's going to spoil the progress charts, which I'm going to have to produce for Tim at the end of the evening. So, the joke is this. Arnold Schoenberg walks into a bar and says, I'll have a gin, but no tonic. No, stop it. Stop it. It's not, you can't find that funny yet because you don't know the references. So, here we go, okay? Now, this is something I found on the internet to replace the
Arnie Schoenberg
several weeks of using it to play. So
yes, friends, the International Matthias Bavard Society proudly presents its first exciting new album containing 187 of the all-time greatest hits from the beloved 12-tone masters. You get selections like Moonstruck from Schoenberg's Pierre Lunaire. Or this catchy melody from Berg's Altenberg Lieder. And remember this from the romantic second movement of the symphony by Webern? Just think, music lovers, all of the most popular 12-tone rows that only this morning you were whistling in the shower or humming on your way to work. Complete in one collection, including the immensely popular Pieces for Orchestra by the same genii, like the delightful Three Pieces for Orchestra of Alban Berg. The tuneful Five Pieces of Arnold Schoenberg.
I think you might have got the idea what atonal music is. Now, I actually thought, I didn't realise that was meant to be a joke. I thought, you know, it's a rather populist, mainstream advert for music which I really like. I actually do enjoy listening to that music for pleasure. It didn't come across very well there because it's all cut up, and some of the performances, I have to say, I did notice a couple of fun notes in some of those interpretations. But it's something I do enjoy, and I think, basically, you know, given time, people can learn to like things. But I have two enemies. Well, I've got more than two enemies, actually. I've got two enemies on this particular topic. The first enemy tells me there's no way you can actually enjoy that music. You're just pretending to like it. You're just trying to show off to impress people. Now, I have yet to meet anybody who's impressed by the fact I like atonal music. It's not opened any doors for me. There's no club which, you like this music, oh, please do join this. There is the International Schoenberg Appreciation Society, but they're a bunch of losers. So there's that side saying you can't possibly enjoy this. It's not normal music. And then there's the other enemy I have, which is saying, oh, atonal music is the only true music. This is the best music, and other music is kind of just full of rules, and atonal music is scrapping all the rules. So if you like anything else, you're brainwashed. Which I find both of those things are quite insulting, because they're kind of implying that these people know more about the way I think than I do, which can't be true. So I'm kind of in the middle between these 2 points of view. I was going to share with you a crisis I had, the kind of crisis you can only really have at the age of 15, listening to Beethoven. And I listened to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and I was absolutely blown away by it. And I put on the music again, straight away, and it didn't have quite the same effect again. I thought, oh, there's obviously something wrong with me. I'm not capable of appreciating great art, and I'm insufficient to appreciate genius. And I realised about 25 years later that getting a bit bored of music, once you hear it the first time and you hear it the second time, the effect wears off a bit. That's entirely natural. That's perfectly normal. Because if we didn't have that situation, we'd all be still listening to, whatever people did when they first discovered music, banging a stick on the ground or something. We'd all still be happily sitting, banging a stick on the ground and enjoying it. So I think the whole history of music has been people, getting a bit bored of this sound and then trying something else and progressing that way. Now, I did promise Tim that don't worry, Tim, I'm not going to just list all the major developments in musical history, but I am going to do that because I think you sort of need the historical context. So going back to the beginning, the basics, we all recognise this. This is the musical scale, okay? Anybody have piano lessons? Anybody give piano lessons? Any music music degree people? Okay, so I'm on fairly safe ground. I think I know more than most people, so that's good. This is the scale. I shall play it for you. It's well within my limitations. Okay, and my question is, well, how do we get to this? Now scale is the other enemy I have is saying, well, scale is a terrible thing because it's a hierarchy. Some notes are more important than others. Now the C, this is the scale of C major, and the C is the most important note in this hierarchy. So we hear it twice, and we know that is we call it the home note. We actually call it the tonic. Right, remember that, it might come up later. So the C is the tonic. Now, what would you say is the next most important note? Or in a way, kind of the note with the closest relationship to C. Let me say D. Some people are cheating. Some people know more than they're letting on. G is indeed the next most important note, okay, for reasons I'll go into. And it's called the dominant note, okay? So it's 5 notes above. That's a very, very important interval. Basic music history is going from this, perfect fifth, to this, which I will also explain. So, C to G, that's 5 notes above, tonic dominant, and 5 notes below is called the subdominant. There's people here, probably all the S&M people thinking, subdominant, what's that? So, now, where do we get these notes from in the first place? Well, what is sound? Sound is vibrations, okay? It's actually natural. If I was to take a tube of air, okay, a column of air, and vibrate it, by, for example, blowing into it, you would get certain notes produced naturally. And when you hear a note on the piano, you're actually also hearing other notes alongside it. We call this, the overtones. And my point here is, it's kind of natural. So the person saying there is such a thing as natural music, this is probably what they're thinking, the idea that certain notes are just right. There's a physical reason. So here is the harmonic series. So that's the octave, that's C, and we're already hearing the same note twice there. And the next note to be produced in nature is our friend, the dominant, the note G, the fifth. Then we hear C again, so C is obviously very strongly coming through. And then we hear E. And what we have here is something called the chord of nature, because it's the first chord to be produced by the harmonic series, so chord of nature. And then we go up and we hear the G again. Now this is an awkward one, because on the piano it's not the same as it occurs in nature. We've had to correct the natural notes to get a scale. So that's where notes come from, okay? So, and as I said, the most important relationship is this fifth. And it's a law I could explain, but I'm not going to. Ask me afterwards. Now, if we go around, if we keep going up in fifths, this is where we get our scales from. So, C, G, D, A, E. We actually have 5 notes there, and if we rearrange them, we get the pentatonic scale. And that scale is used in loads of cultures around the world, but with slightly different tunings. You can still make, today people write songs using pentatonic scales and a couple of chords. It's a very powerful scale because it's so basic and elemental and sort of feeds, can I play it? No, I can't remember it. I'll go play it all on signed. It's not New Year's Eve anyway, so we won't worry about that. Okay, so if we go around again, or keep going further, I actually like that chord as it stands. But if you rearrange the notes, we get the major scale. So it's one wrong note. So we just change the starting note, we get the G major scale. Okay, so what I'm trying to get across here is the fact that the perfect fifth is really fundamental to all music. And if you keep going round and round and round, eventually you do get all 12 notes. So we do a chromatic scale. Okay, medieval times, we're skipping ahead to the Middle Ages, and people hadn't discovered chords yet, they just kind of, they sang tunes with no accompaniment. So, just choose. And then somebody thought, well, let's try and sing together. And naturally people sang in an octave. And then people got it wrong, and they created a fifth. And, oh, that sounds quite nice. So for ages and ages and ages, people harmonised melodies just using a fifth. So, very important for basic harmony. The first time people sang at the same time. And if you look at the scale, so fifths, fifth, but here you can't do it. There's a very odd interval called the tritone, and this is going to be really important later on. So in a scale you've got perfect fifths, but you also have this odd thing called the tritone, which is very strange, very difficult to sing. Now around 1400. Somebody called John Dunstable had the idea of adding another note to the fifth and creating the triad. Okay. Now this is the chord we all know and love. It's called a triad, not because it's a gangster, but because it's 3 notes. And even today you can write music just using triads and pentatonics and scales, and it's still possible to do that. Okay, so we start to get, it's very weird how quickly it catches on. Suddenly everyone's doing music with triads. And we start to get the issue of chords that sound good against the melody, consonance and dissonance. So that's a chord. Does that sound all right? That fits in the chord. That doesn't work. But actually, try it with you can resolve. This is the point. So you have a C major chord. You resolve, and you can move to another key. Okay, so dissonance, chords that sound bad, they can resolve by moving to another chord, and that is that kind of question with an answer. Okay, and that resolution is what makes tuneful music. Okay, so we're just going to try this joke again. Okay, so a man walks into a bar, and a man's walked into a bar. C, E flat, and G walk into a bar. And the barman says, "Sorry, I don't serve minors." Okay, so classical era. Okay, it's all based around that progression I showed you. 5 to 1. Perfect cadence is called. Dissonant chord, but it resolves to a nice chord. And this kind of really fits in with the world of the other time. They had faith in reason. They had faith that the questions would be answered. And they had faith that there's a big story behind everything. And really, who can blame them? Because it probably wasn't very nice if you're living in the 18th century. Toothache, no proper dentist, diseases, short lifespan, so on. So we can't really blame them for trying to create a slightly more beautiful world picture. Now, as the century went on, composers started to use more and more of those other notes, the other notes in the chromatic scale, further round the circle of fifths. And I'm going to play now something which I've been advertising as the chord of love. Okay, I don't know what effect it's going to have on people, but this is from Wagner. Now, Wagner, I know, is a problematic guy. Okay, but he was a great composer, a very influential composer, terrible human being, but we can't have everything. But I'm going to play the opening from Tristan and Isolde, and you'll hear the chord of love. I'll play it again for those of you who aren't listening. Just to amp up the love factor. That's the chord of love. Now, the interesting thing about it is that it contains our friend, the tritone. And instead of resolving to a nice chord, it resolves to another tritone. So that instability and that confusion is kind of stretched out, and want to hear a nice chord, it's postponed. And that creates the sense of desire that Wagner was hoping to achieve. The opera's been described as a 4-hour orgasm, I suspect by people who are not experts in the field. And then, people say that this is the Wagner's Tristan chord is the beginning of the end for tonality. And at the beginning of the 20th century, hell did break loose, and people scrapped that tonal system where the horrible chord is followed by a nice chord, and they went just with the horrible chord, being followed by another horrible chord and another horrible chord, and that sense of resolution doesn't happen anymore because they lost faith in all the grand narratives. They stopped believing in God, and I'm being really sketchy here with my history, but I'm just broad brushstrokes. Okay, so people stopped believing in these big narratives, and the music amazingly reflected that. But what's amazing is the way what happened in music happened in other arts, around the same time. So people did this in different ways. So Debussy, for example, he challenged the tonal system by using fewer notes. Debussy, among many other things, he went back to the pentatonic scale. Other people used something called a whole tone scale. Now, what's both things got in common is that neither of them actually use the perfect fifth, so you don't get that perfect cadence. Schoenberg, different approach. As Arnold Schoenberg, self-portrait, he was a painter as well. And a typical chord by Schoenberg might sound like this. And it just completely gets away from that triumph sound. Now, he completely abandoned tonality, and this became a bit of a crisis because you can't sustain it. If you just bash around the piano playing random notes, eventually it gets a bit boring. So he came to a system of using all 12 notes without repeating any. It's basically Sudoku with notes, okay? And this created a system which they could, restore some kind of order to music. And you have your 12 notes, and you can play them backwards, upside down. And it's basically maths with music, but it did enable them to compose in a more structured way. And I have no idea what's going on there. That is just, ridiculous. Now, 1933, Schoenberg was a German Jew, and he fled to Hollywood. He lived opposite Shirley Temple, and he played tennis with George Gershwin. I couldn't find a decent photo of them playing tennis together. I know it's got some of the hallmarks of a fake, but I assure you it's absolutely true. George Gershwin, the great jazz composer, and Schoenberg, the atonal composer, they were big mates. Sadly, Gershwin died a year later after meeting, and has put Schoenberg into real depression. Schoenberg was afraid of the number 13. He had triskaidekaphobia, fear of the number 13, and he invented the 12-tone system. I just think that's brilliant. He invented a system using 12 notes, and he was afraid of number 13. Okay, let's try this again. Arnold Schoenberg walked into a bar and said, I'll have a gin and no tonic. Now you can laugh. And the barman said, what's wrong, Arnold? And he said, well, I thought that by now the grocer boys would be singing my tunes. I thought I'd cracked it. I thought I had the system to solve this problem of dissonance. But no, people don't really like my music. In fact, they laugh at it. And one of Schoenberg's people influenced by him was a chap called Scott Bradley, who wrote the music for the Tom and Jerry cartoons. And, he said, I hope Dr. Schoenberg will forgive me for using a system to produce funny music, but even the boys in the orchestra laughed when we were recording it. So Schoenberg's, he thought he'd reached the end point of musical evolution, but ended up just being, another language we can use. So, Schoenberg, afraid of the number 13, 1951, he did in fact die on Friday the 13th of July, at the age of 76, which 7 plus 6 is 13. And there's a theory that his fear of number 13 actually did kill him, just so we're weirded out about the fact that he was, in this special year. So that's the end of Schoenberg. I've had to cram a lot in. I could go on for hours, but I'm just going to leave you with this lovely image. This is, I would take Schoenberg to my desert island because you can just never get used to it. I wouldn't take my favourite music to the island because you'd hate it after about 3 weeks. Schoenberg, because of getting used to things, you're only ever going to get to like it more. So I urge you to try this. Give it a chance. Listen to it in live performance, and don't just put it on the background. Listen properly, and you'll be surprised as to what you might feel after a few months of doing that. So, Anton Webern, Alban Berg, and Arnold Schoenberg walk into a bar. Anton Webern leaves after 57 seconds and gets shot in an alley. True story. Schoenberg says, sod this, on to Hollywood. Alban Berg drinks 12 gins with different flavoured tonics, turns to the barman and says, that's showbiz, and passes out. And that is the end of my talk on atonality. Thank you very much.